Yeah, good morning. We will start the documents as a source of data in qualitative research. These are documents that can be read, but not just text, visual as well. Have not been produced specifically for the purpose of research, are preserved so that they become available for analysis and are relevant to the concern for social research. Now, when you say documents, basically, it's we are not just looking at it as just a text or maybe visual as well. So we believe documents really will have meaning. It will really describe how social world really has been constructed. So thereby, in a way, document tells us construction of the society. So thereby, documents in the sense not just text, but it explains certain kind of activities taken place in the society. So thereby, by studying those documents, we are trying to find out really what has happened, what activities taken place, something like that. So thereby, we don't see just documents as just text, but we believe that documents tells us stories. That is the basic idea about the first slides. And also, when you look at the documents, documents may not be really produced for a specific purpose. We know that, okay, financial statements prepared for the, for stakeholders, creditors and shareholders, that is true. But when you analyze documents, we look at that, we have that particular assumptions. So they are available for analysis. Why don't they use those? So if they are available, we have to use it for our social research. That's the basic logic behind these documents for our social research. Then critical for assessing the quality of documents. So when you are using any, documents means evidence, as I told you, and we believe that documents really indicate how particular social phenomena has been really constructed. So thereby, when you use the what do you call this particular documents or the informations, you need to ensure that it has certain qualities, not garbage. First one is authenticity. Authenticity is really, we asking that, is it genuine? Is it, deliberately created, or is it genuine? Then the credibility, the source, is it free from error and distortions? So credibility we have to consider. And representatives is the evidence is typically of its kinds. Representative is the particular evidence is representing the situation or the concepts or the issue what we are studying, and meaning, is it clear and comprehensible? Those are the things we use to measure the quality. For example, suppose you are going to study how Sri Lanka telecommunication, Sri Lanka telecom really privatized. So earlier it was a government SOE, state-owned enterprises. Now it is a private, organization coming under the Companies Act. So how this particular process taken place? What was the strategy? What were the challenges? How it really evolved, privatization of Sri Lanka Telecom. So when you do this kind of study, you can't just get the information, because depending on the research questions, you can't just get the particular data evidence by just distributing a questionnaire. Why? Because your research question, how Sri Lanka telecommunication really converted into privatized venture is really a different phenomena, different question. So thereby you can't just get the information by just distributing a questionnaire and asking people to agree, disagree, say that. So you need to investigate. You need to look at how it really how change taken place. So thereby you may look at the documents, evidence. Since it's a national level organizations, of course, there should be documents from the parliament, debates. There may be a special debates on this particular area. Then you have to go through the Hansards. So Hansard would be a kind of document for you to, analyze, to find out how this particular venture or how this particular change taken place and start evolve. Maybe newspaper articles published in those years, those times, will really different, maybe trade union documents, even maybe documents published by whatever the reports published by the people, Sri Lanka Telecom. So any other studies taken place during this particular era. So you might refer to different kind of documents, assuming that uh, 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 those authenticity and credibility, representativeness and meanings. So when you refer to the Hansard, I think its authenticity is there, credibility is there, representative is there, meaning is there. Because that debate actually taken place, and that has been documented. So I think you got the point of documents. So documents may be anything, but we need to, when we use our research, we need to consider the quality of those documents. Then types of documents available for study, as you may have personal diaries and all that, minutes, official state documents, minutes example, official company documents, annual reports, mass media inputs, newspaper articles, and virtual documents. In addition to that, the official company document, state documents mean public sector, the state government documents. So you can categorize documents from different perspective and different way, but here I think no need of explaining. Personal, official state documents, as I told you, the Hansard report, maybe government publication gazettes, maybe the general reports, maybe COPE committee reports, maybe COPA committee reports, maybe even court cases. Now, if you are going to study the bond scandal in Sri Lanka, of course, you need to study the newspapers, articles published, series of newspapers published on this issue. And also, that there was a court case for this particular bond issue, and now the decision has been given. So thereby, you can read the particular reports, court report. So it's official state document. The official company documents means if you are studying Sri Lanka Telecom, if you are studying the treasury bond case, The official documents would be the documents really prepared or documents, issued documents from those organizations. For example, Sri Lanka Telecom, maybe annual reports, maybe minutes, maybe training session, special press conferences, what they had really in relation to this particular privatization process. It is a one case, so you may look at the central bank report. I think you can remember the forensic accounting reports. Maybe for this bond case, it was we know that public parliament appointed a 3-member committee initially, 3 lawyers, and their report. That is, of course, the government reports, not the official. So official means the document issued by the particular organization. So mass media outputs, I think, virtual documents, what is published in virtually, internet, online, and video documents. You can consider all these as documents. Then the personal documents, diaries, letters, autobiographies, and photographs. Right. Now we talk about the personal documents in details, maybe even photographs. You can use as your data. Could be the primary source of data within a qualitative study, could be used as adjunct to other methods such as interviews and participants' observations, perhaps to trace the history of an organization. Diaries may also be used as a method of data collection in turns available to other researchers. So thereby, those are the example for, personal documents. So I think I should not discuss a little bit more. We can understand the personal documents, then the official state documents, from the states on the legislation reports of the public inquiries. The author Turner, 1990 reports from the public inquiries. If there was any inquiry, you can really read those reports. As I told you, the court judgment, bond case, study of Tenerife planned crash tragedy in 1977, using documents gathered by the Spanish Ministry of Transport and Communications. Plane crash, if it is a plane crash, documents given in this example can be a very time consuming of research, and question credibility because of original reports may be biased. Because, when you look at the certain cases, certain documents may be officially biased. So thereby you have to be careful when use, certain state or certain public sector documents, because they have the power, so they can create a document in such a way. And other aspect is time consuming. Yeah. Now, studying Hansard report or going through Hansard reports, studying the old budgets, speeches, it's not easy. So it's time consuming. For example, we are studying the RAMIS, Revenue Administration System in Sri Lanka. For that, what we did was we went through all, budget speeches from 2010 onwards. But when we read this 2010 and 2011, 2012 budget speeches, we realize that the, tax administration matter is not from 2010, it's beyond. So thereby we read to 1977 budget speech. Then we started to read in 97, 98. Then we read all the budget speeches from 97 to today. Even though it's not IT oriented, so we just wanted to see how government look at this tax administration matter, even though it is recently started of computerizing. But before Ramis, they had another system. So thereby, we just, can you imagine? So you have to find out the budget speeches. Finding such historical documents is very difficult. So you should have the access. If you don't have the access, if you don't know the people to whom you talk, you can't get those documents. So thereby, even to get official state documents, of course, you should have a very good network. For one of our research for the bond case, we tried to really enter into the parliament. Even though we are academics, we had our letters, authorization letters, they didn't allow us. Ultimately, what we did was we contact a particular person whom we are familiar and our friends, and then they allow. Otherwise, no. So we had to wait at the gate. So that's you have to remember the accessing those documents, not easy, challenging, time consuming. Official company documents in the public domains, there are certain documents available in the public domains, annual reports, mission statement, reports to shareholders, transcripts of chief executive speeches. I think many things, no need of explaining. But not in the public domain, maybe the company newsletters, organization charts, not the simple, the descriptive, comprehensive organizational chart may not be available. External consultants reports, minutes of meeting, memos, internal, external correspondence, manual for new recruits, and policy statements, company regulations. Best thing is that better to visit the library of the particular organization. But in my experience, when you go to study, say for our Ramis case, Inland Revenue study, what we did was we visited the library of the Inland Revenue. But I know that library is not systematic there. Certain documents are missing, there are a lot of issues. But a good place to find out not in the public domain is to visit the library if there is a library in that particular organization. I know most of the government organization will have its own library. If you go to the water board, so I did a research on performance measurement in water board. So there, of course, library is much more systematic. You have all the reports, all documents. It's very nice library if you want to study the water sector in Sri Lanka. For something else, also you can find out if your study is related to water, even though it's not directly related, water board is not directly related, but if you go to the library, there you get more information, the country's water sector. Okay. Then mass media outputs, newspaper and magazine, radios and TV films. And if you know that for our bond case, we have collected all the newspaper articles published with regard to the bond at those times. What we did was we really we thought of, when the bond case happened, after 3-4 months only, we thought of, we should study this. So at that time, a lot of articles, being published already. So thereby what we did was, we approached the Institute of Bankers and we talked to them. And we gave really the instructions to collect, we request the librarian, then librarian did a marvelous job for us to collect all the newspaper articles published in the newspapers. But of course, radio and TV news are now on the virtual online, so thereby we can find out. But certain cases, certain documents, even magazines may not be easy to find out. Problem with authenticity when authorship is unclear. When there's no authorship, authenticity is not, questionable. But newspaper articles always, that, published by certain people. But remember, when you use the trade union articles published by press conferences given by trade unions will be appeared on the internet. The real example is when you talk to the inland revenue people about these trade union, newspaper articles or the trade union press conferences or certain publication in, say, online, some respondents really reject. They told that no, it's not the story, it's not true, something like that. So the authenticities always need to be considered when using those documents. Problem with credibility because of the possibilities of image distortions. Okay. So if you don't use the, credibility documents, the quality of your research, image of your publications, image of your findings, so is challenging. If you are going to publish in a reputed journal, what you have to do is you have to ensure all these factors which we discuss under the quality of, documents. Then virtual output, official on the internet, personal websites, forum, mailing list and message boards, private email communication, problem with authenticity, possibility to identify deceptions. Deception කියලා කියන්නේ මේ රවටන්න මේක හදලා තියෙන්න පුළුවන් අර මං කිව්වාගේ trade union රැමිස් සිස්ටම් එකකට කරේ සමහර දේවල් trade union මේක ඕනට වැඩිය කිව්වා සමාජයට. Problem with interpretation, need insider knowledge to understand text. Right? The reality of documents, a document exists in their own right. We should examine them in terms of their context, intended readerships. Certain documents, they won't allow us to bring in. So thereby, we have to look at those documents from that context. Now, for example, when you privatize the Sri Lanka Telecom, when you look at the annual report, financial statements, you have to be careful. So you have to look at from that context. What is the context? You may really, if you want to say that, no, this is a loss-making company, that's why we are privatizing, then the financial statements more towards that theme. After privatization, if you refer to the annual reports after privatization, so theme is to show the good performance. So thereby, when you read the financial statement before privatization and after privatization, you have to understand the context. Context is important. For example, suppose your company is going to make a public share issue, maybe initial public offer. So they may publish the annual, prospectus. When you read the prospectus, you have to be careful. Why? Because the prospectus is in the context of share issue. So share issue context. So companies, they tend to prepare these prospectus so as to attract the investors. So thereby there is a possibility of manipulation. I can remember one particular tile company in 1991 somewhere when we were the auditors. So we went there and we studied. They were planning to go for a public offer. And what they did was they overstated the tiles stock. When they overstated the tile, what happened to the profit? Profit is really overstated. At that time, I can remember 3 million or something. It's a big amount at that time. But tile, stock, finished goods. So thereby, when you study a document, you just don't look at the document itself. The context is important. The context is important. Now, when you look at the recent stories, the government, the officials, central bank governor, Ajit Timal Kapral is telling that there's no problem in printing money. Even Prime Minister recently told that, yes, we have to print money. But you have to remember the context. The context is now our debt capacity, raising debt is very, I would say, weak. So thereby the government is not positioned to raise debt money. Source of finance, debt source is not possible. So government cannot issue sovereign bonds, development bonds, and also government is not in a position to issue really treasury bonds and other short-term bonds. So thereby only one option they have. What is the option? To print money. Money printing means you issue the bonds and you purchase. Government is issuing bonds and government is purchasing. When government is purchasing, what they have to do is they have to print money. So without telling, without understanding that, you can't interpret the statement given by particular official. So thereby always when when you study a document, when you study this conversation, when you study a particular text or what is published online, so always you need to understand to look for the context. Context is a matter. This means researchers are usually more interested in the content of document, but must keep the document's original purpose in mind. We should not use the document for some other purpose. We have to use our it for our original original purpose. So we need to find out, must we keep documents original purpose in mind? Researchers are usually more interested in the content of documents, but I'm sorry, this is a little bit different. This is really document original purpose in mind means, you know that, for example, annual financial statements are prepared for the whom? For example, investors, as per the Sri Lanka guidelines, Sri Lanka accounting standards. That is the original purpose. But if you are going to use it for your research, maybe performance measurements, then it's not really, may not be relevant. If you are going to measure, say, employee performance or some kind of really, say, environmental related performance, then by looking at the financial itself not enough, then you have to look at some other environmental reporting. So additional notes or some other things, you see. So financial statement does not really provide the benefit for your research, because that particular document is prepared for some other purpose. But if your research is aligned with that purpose, then of course there is a direct link. So there is no problem. But so thereby, that's why we are highly worried about when people study, corporate governance, or when people study some, issues with regard to the corporate governance, best practices, just focusing on annual reports, just studying annual reports, is it enough? So our belief is that when you study performance and governance related issues, just by relying on totally annual report is really narrowing your research focus, narrowing your research finding. The validity of your research finding is questioned. Reliability of your question is, questionable. Why? annual reports prepared and presented in a particular context. Context is to convince the stakeholders, convince creditors. So thereby you should look at, as an independent researcher, you should look at your issue, your problem from different angle with other sources of data. So thereby better to focus on multi evidence when you study such a things. Analytics methods for interpreting documents. We have, qualitative content analysis, semiotics, that is the meaning, hermeneutics, and historical analysis. Qualitative content analysis, of course, you see, qualitative content analysis is really comprise searching out of underlying themes in the material being analyzed. The process of through which the theme is extracted are usually left implicit. The extracted themes are usually illustrated, for example, with brief quotation from a newspaper article or magazines, constants versus revisions of themes categories. There, what you do is the qualitative content analysis. You just try to find out. We can do the content analysis in different way. Even quantitative research, you do the content analysis, you just count the words. Say, for example, if you study the materiality, you can material judgment, you can look at the annual reports, and you can count number of words, number of times material judgment is being really mentioned in the report. That is one way of content analysis. But that is surface content. But here we go a little bit further, depth content analysis in qualitative research. So thereby comprises searching out underlying themes in the materials being analyzed. So we focus on themes. Yeah, someone is asking. Yeah, anyone? Any question? I saw that someone is showing the hand. Right, okay. If it's mistaken, no problem. What I was talking about, themes in the material being analyzed. So what we need is to identify the themes when you analyze the document. But themes you can't just develop. So to develop the themes, you need certain kind of, a lens, a theory. You need a theory. For example, when you analyze, say, a particular research by using, say, institutional theory, then in the institutional theory, there are certain isomorphism, how this particular discourse is spread or adopted. So maybe the mimetic, or maybe in certain cases, mimetic, copying others. So that's the kind of theme you look at in certain documents. Maybe professionals may encourage the particular discourse, particular concept. Maybe international organizations are really now. For example, if you look at the RAMIS, always when you read the reports, documents, international organizations really Asian Development Bank is really encouraging. World Bank is encouraging. So the theme is that, the RAMIS is a kind of, a project which is really influenced, which is really encouraged, which is posed by the international donor agencies. And also, if you look at the professionals, government top officials, P.B. Jayasundar, he was the one key person in implementing and designing this project. So the theme is that, so thereby the isomorphism is coming in, different isomorphism. So thereby, if you want to find out themes from the particular documents, you should have a lens, you should have a theory. By using that theory, you are trying to find out the themes. If you look at the theory of Bujo, you may have the social capital, economic capital, cultural capital, etc. So thereby, you may look at the themes from that perspective. If you use the institutional logic perspective, you may look at different logics as the themes. So thereby, what is important is to find out the themes. Themes will depend on the theory, the lens, what you have already selected. The process of through which the themes are extracted are usually left implicit. So those are not directly really, mentioned. For example, when you interview the people, I'm just talking about not the documents. They say file guard concept. So we have to put that file guard concept, the word in they said in Inland Revenue from the theory what we have already used. The extract, so thereby all these themes are hidden, hidden. Your agenda, your ability is to find out those. That is the talent what a qualitative research needs. So the extract themes are usually illustrated, for example. So themes we can illustrate by using example with brief quotation from a newspaper article or magazines. Those themes can be elaborated by using, by just extracting what they say. Constant revision of themes and categories. So when you do it, you may revise, you may change the themes later on. Semiotics. Science of signs and analysis symbols in everyday life. A sign is something that stands for something else made up, a signifier, and things signify the meaning. Meaning is denotative, the obvious meaning, and connotative, the meaning in a particular context. Sign can be interpreted in many ways. So special meaning is something sometimes given the code, and the resulting analysis can be seen perhaps unfairly as arbitrary. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to here give meaning. So the meaning is denotative means, it's obvious. Say, come here. So in certain cases, when you look at the words and phrases, sentences, there is a surface meaning, but what we are looking at, not the surface meaning, not the obvious meaning, but we are looking at the meaning in a particular context. Meaning in a particular context. මහා බැංකුව අධිපතිලා ඇවිල්ලා මුදල් මුද්‍රණය කරන්න. Meaning in the context. ඇයි මුදල් මුද්‍රණය කරන්න කියන කාරණා. So we need to understand there is no other alternative for our country other than printing money because of the capacity, very low capacity of debt raising. That is the situation. That is the meaning. That is the meaning. Anyway, so what is required is we are looking at, but by 1.5 hour lecture, it's very difficult to discuss all these matters. We have to look at the research papers, discuss the research papers, and show you what. So it's not possible here. Anyway, so when you go to this particular Godin's 1982 semiotic analysis of Disneyland in Los Angeles suggests that different lands in the park are associated with signifiers of capitalism as follows. So it different kind of lands: predatory, colonialism, state capital, venture capital, family capital. So Main Street is just, it represents the family capital, New Orleans and venture capital. Likewise, so it represents, lands represent different meaning in these lands. Predator capital, colonialism, state capital, and venture capital, and that is frontier lands means predatory capital. So thereby it's for you to interpret this. Then hermeneutic means the meaning of document must be understood from the perspective of its author, who was the intended recipient, and what was the semiotic code. Then now you have to remember, when you do the qualitative research, we can't separate the researcher and the evidence, researcher and the documents, researcher and the data. So it's not possible for you to differentiate or separate these two people. So thereby there is no the research. We are researchers. So when you look at documents, when you study this, investigate, analyze your personal biasness, your experience, your politics, your culture, your social values will have a matter impact on that. That's the idea of hermeneutic. Requires sensitivity to the social and historical context in which the document was prepared, a formal approach developed by Phillips and Browns. If you want, you can go and understand further. I think with that, that part is over. Then we will move on to the other session. But I don't think within half an hour I can do it. Anyway, we will see it where it goes. Language. This is a little bit, I know that since you are not much more familiar with this, since you are all much more, technical side of accounting, social aspect of qualitative research, and this is maybe very new to you. Language and social research. So, in addition to documents, in addition to text, we may talk to the people. We interview people, maybe focus group, maybe one-to-one talk. Then such a speeches, such talks, how you are going to really analyze would be discussed here. So in that in in qualitative research, you may look at documents. If document in the sense, it's a broader concept. On the other hand, you may do interviews and you may observe the things what is taken place. But when you do the, what do you call this, interview methods, how this interview methods or the interviews will be analyzed, discussed under this language and social research, chapter. If you want, you have to read. If you want more knowledge, you need to read the chapter. But I don't think that I can really, tell everything here under this, because it's an art. We are also studying. Right, language and social research. Knowing how words are used, and the meaning of specific terms in local vernacular, it's crucial to an appreciation of how the social world being studied is viewed by its members. The two approaches examined here treat language as their central focal point. One is the conversation analysis, other one is discourse analysis. Then we will take one example, right? One day, I can remember strategic management accounting last time. One group was unable to, make their presentation. Then they was unable to make their presentation. Then they called me. One student called me, "Sir, I just want to meet you and get an appointment to make the presentation later on." So I said, "Yes, come." So I was in my room, 513, 5th floor of the new faculty building. My room number is that, but I was not there when they called me. So I said, "You go to this place, I will come." So then when I go there, I saw that two students are waiting outside the waiting room. The waiting room is their space, and they are sitting. So when I thought, these are the two students. So I ignored them and I just went into my room. I came out and I asked, "Why you are waiting?" They said, "We want to meet Dayanand sir." I told that, "Oh, he will come. If he did you call them?" "Yes." So I said, "Wait, he will come." They don't know that the Dayanand Ambalangoda is now talking to them. Then what happened was, I called Professor Anil and such a situation was happened. "Can you come to my room?" Right? So he came. When he is coming, two students really thought that the answer is coming, and they really enter into the room. I also was there in the room. Now we asked different questions. They were unable to. They were really very embarrassed, and they were unable to, answer our question, and they just went. So my question is now, I think incident is I explained in a summary form. Now, how this incident explain. Now, these two students, if suppose their friends, they ඔයන් තැනකදී පාටි එකදී හරි කතා බහකදී හරි දැන් මේ ළමයි දෙන්න මේ සිද්ධිය කියන්නේ කොහොමද? ෆන් එකට. මම මේ සිද්ධිය කියලා ළමයි දෙන්නට ඉන්ටර්විව් එකක් තිබ්බනම් ප්‍රශ්න කිරීමක් කරා නම් අන්සර් ප්‍රදාන ගාව මේ දෙන්න හැසිරෙන්නේ කොහොමද? What kind of language they will use? to describe the same story as a fun, to describe the same story as a, inquiry. Can you imagine two type of language they will use? Two type of activities, the wordings, gesture, කතා කරන විලාසය, හැසිරීම, eye contacts, all those, different. That is language. So thereby, language is not a description of the society, description of the world, but language is really constructing the world, constructing the society. So thereby, when we are trying to study the interviews, we are not trying to, study what is true, what is false. That means සිද්ධියේදී සිද්ධි දෙකට විග්‍රහ කරාට the multiple realities. So thereby, ontology and epistemology, two different. You got my point? So thereby, when we have interviews, or the, when you use the language for our research, so we use two kind of analysis, conversation analysis and discourse analysis. Conversation analysis is the fine-grained analysis of talk as it focuses in interaction in naturally and occurring situation. That is the conversation analysis. So it's naturally happening. So we just wanted to, understand that. That's our කතාවලදී. So you may laugh. That is a kind of, language. ඒකත් අපි අඳ ගන්නවා. සමහර ලාවදී අපි කතා කරන යනකොට පොඩි නිහඬතාවයක් වෙනවා. සමහර ලාවදී අපිට වචන එන්නේ නැහැ. So if you study this recent COPE incidents, Ferdinand, how he really present the idea in front of the COPE committee. අර අදානි සමාගමට අර විදුලි කතාව නේ. So it's a good case to study language. The talk is usually recorded and transcribed. To do the conversation analysis, what we have to do is you need to record the conversation and transcribe so that detailed analysis can be carried out. These analyses are concerned with uncovering the underlying structures of talks in interaction and as such with the achievement of order through interaction. So thereby, really conversation analysis කියලා කියන්නේ අර සිදුවෙච්ච conversation එක naturally සිදුවෙච්ච conversation එක ඒ විදිහටම record කරලා transcribe කරන එක තමයි conversation analysis එකෙන් අතරම වෙන්නේ. එතකොට full stop කියපුවා hi කියපුවා ඒ ඔක්කොම එනවා in the conversation transcription. Assumptions of conversation analysis. Speech is seen as action that does something. So speech එක අපි සලකන්නේ description එකකට වඩා it's an action that does something. That does something. Only thing is, what is this something? We need to interpret. We need to understand from different angle, different perspective by using different, theories. Focus is on the here and now context of talks. Avoid making extraneous inferences. Particular author Heritage is talking about talk is structured in Tacit rule. Tacit Sagon rule වල එක structure වෙලා තියෙන. Talk is formed contextually. දැන් උදාහරණයක් වශයෙන් අර මම කිව්ව සිද්ධිය මේ ළමයි දෙන්න ඇවිල්ලා ස්ටුඩන්ට්ස් ලත් එක්ක ෆන් එකක් ගන්න මේක කියන එකයි. තව අවුරුදු 5කින් 6කින් වෙන්න පුළුවන් මේක කියන්නේ. මට මෙහෙම සිද්ධියක් වුණා කියලා. එහෙම නැත්නම් දැනටමත් කියලා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ ෆන් එකක් ගන්න ඒ කොන්ටෙක්ස් එකයි. ඉන්ක්වයරි කොන්ටෙක්ස් එකයි. Totally different. නේ? ඒතර ෆන් එක ගන්න තැන ඉන්ෆෝමල්. ඉන්ක්වයරි එක තැන ෆෝමල්. ෆන් එක ගැන සෙටප් එක වෙන එකක්. ඉන්ක්වයරි එක කරන තැන වෙන සෙටප් එක. ඔෆිෂියල් ගතියක්. ඔෆිස් එකේ ඒකට ගයිඩ්ලයින් එකක්. ඒකට රූල්ස් තියෙනවා, regulations. That is the context. Analysis is grounded in data. So data we are analyzing, not anything else. The specific detail of conversation, interaction cannot be ignored. Conventional interaction cannot be ignored. දැන් අපි කෙනෙකුට දුරකථනයෙන් කතා කරාම අපිට පේනවා ඇති අපි good morning කිව්වහම ඒ පැත්තෙන් කතා කරනකොට ප්‍රතිචාර දක්වන hi කියන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට ඒක හරි welcome starting එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. සමහරවල් negative starting එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. නේද? Okay. Some basic tools of conversation analysis, notational symbols, කියනකොට ඒක record වෙන්න ඕන, ඒක type වෙන්න ඕන, transcribe වෙන්න ඕන, prolonged sound එක we'll see. නේ? ගාලා intake breath, that also should be recorded. Silence has to be transcribed. Turn taking කියලා කියන්නේ මේ at a time only one can speak. Turn taking speech එකක් one time. එතකොට අපිට පුළුවන්කම තියෙනවා දැන් ඉන්ටර්විව් කරේ කෙනා ඉස්සරහින් යාලියලා එයා තමයි මේ කතා කරේ කියලා කියන්නේ. That is turn taking. නමුත් turn taking වෙනකොට අපිට පුළුවන් පොඩි push එකක් දෙන්න කියලා yes කියලා ඔළුව වනලා එයාට we can encourage really the person to continue their speech. That also has to be transcribed in the text. That is a kind of conversation analysis. Agency fairs means when you say that starting and the finishing of the conversations, questions and answers. Mama question ekak kala mama answer karana. Invitation and response. Mama invitation ekak karana, is it do you think that is correct? Do you agree with me? Why don't you look at this? So I'm just expecting a response. So those are the tools, basic tools. So those should be reflected in your transcription. That's the idea. The preference organizations, again, one response referred to the other. This preferred response has to be justified. So if there are extraordinary statements, we need to get the justification. Accounts justify actions by reference to common values, and repair mechanism, a response to unexpected speech acts. කතා කරගෙන යනකොට මොකක් හරි unexpected එකක් කියවනම් so we should ask again එහෙමත් වුණාද කියලා අපි just we are encouraging him to talk a little bit more on that extraordinary thing. එතකොට ඒවා අපිට conversation එකේදී conversation analysis අපි identify කරගන්න ඕන those kind of repair mechanisms, reference organizations and accounts. So we have to we are identifying those things. What discourse? What is discourse analysis then? Of course, all forms of linguistic communication. Discourse is constitutive of social world, frames the way we perceive reality and create objects of knowledge. Anti-realistic epistemology and constructionist ontology. What are people trying to accomplish when they use particular discourses? Linguistic communication we use now. All form of linguistic, means the language and all that words. Discourse is constitutive of the social world. Discourse එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ it's a kind of things that really world constitutive. Discourse has different meaning, of course. Maybe language you can consider as a discourse. Maybe a particular concept in sociology, social science, for example, balance code is a kind of discourse. Profit is a kind of discourse. Financial statement is a kind of discourse. Accounting standards is a kind of, you look at the account things as discourse. Frame of the frames, the way we perceive reality. Discourse really the frame, the language, the frame, the language will frame the way we perceive the reality. Creates objects of knowledge. So anti-realistic epistemology means we don't think that there is only one reality and reality is there and we can capture it. That is realism. Anti-realism means, reality is multiple. There are multiple realities and we cannot really take it as an object item. So it depends on, the reality depends on how we perceive it. How do we see? How do we look at the the corruptions and the deal in this country? Some are saying that එහෙම වුණාට කමන්නේ අපටත් නේ අපේ පාඩුවේ ජීවත් වෙන්න පුළුවන් නම් හොඳට නේ ටිකක් ගැහුවත් කමන්නේ ටිකක් හොරකම් කරත් කමන්නේ රට හදනවා කියලා කියත් ඒ කියන්නේ හොරකම හොඳයි කියන අයත් ඉන්නේ. සමහර අය against නේ. So you see that there are multiple realities. So it depends on how you really interpret, how you really perceive, how you assign meaning to this particular event. ඒකට කියනවා anti-realist epistemology. Anti-realist epistemology. So to understand that really, you need different alternative way of doing research. Constructionist ontology means we assume that it's a kind of reality is being constructed by people. Reality is being constructed by the people is the constructionist ontology. So thereby we believe that language is really creating, constructing the social world or society. What are people trying to accomplish when they use particular discourses? You see that ජනමාධ්‍ය පහුගිය දවස්වල කහපාට ටී-ෂර්ට් එක ගෙනන් එන්න කියලා. මොකද කරේ? They created the social world. So thereby language is really a kind of action. So ඒක description එකක් නෙවෙයි. ඒක language එක පාවිච්චි කරලා අපි action එකක් තමයි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ. Three basic discourses analytics of questions. What is this discourse doing? And how is this discourse constructed to make this happen? And what resources are available to perform this activity? So I think with this, so since you have some other lecture, I think you should have a rest. So what I will do is the rest part of the lecture, the recorded version, I will be put forward and you just listen to that, and this recording also I will be uploaded. I will be really uploaded, and a new version of language, particular kind of things, so uploaded to the LMS. Any question? Okay. Right. Shall we then end up the session?